Who has been asked to provide feedback on this by myself a few times and by other people following feedback. I actually got my dose of free leaflets today, so I thought that I'd bring them in. So I've got my pizza leaflet. I've got my care at home, which, you know, with a bit of luck, maybe as the United States might go into soon. We've got the move home, which might have to do, depending on some building work that might be planned for a hospital. And then we've got a cruise, which again is another option for the President of the United States. So I think we've all been quite diligent in going through these piles, because we do know they come as a batch. So I think we all appreciate that. So they've come as a batch. We've all been going through them, looking for these leaflets. There was one before Christmas due, and there was one after Christmas that was due. And I think it is quite frustrating for all of us involved that the supplier doesn't seem to have delivered them, because statistically we should have expected to see them pop up in our inboxes. And I don't know about Councillor Rowlands, Councillor Garrett, but certainly the feedback I've had from my group is only 2 out of all of us have had it. So it does feel like there's been a bit of an issue there. It's also quite sad as well, because I know Mr. Whitfield put a lot of effort in with the team to get the graphics really well done, and working with Ms. Willis to make sure the messaging on the questionnaires and everything else was spot on. So it was supposed to be pretty seamless, and the supplier seems to have let us down. So I think you raised 2 questions. One was, what else can we do about it? And again, I know from talking to Mr. Whitfield, we've done a lot more social media activity than we would normally have done or was planning to do, particularly in the non-parished areas where the profile was a bit lower. Again, let's be honest, we knew the profile was already going to be raised in Windlesham, so we probably have had a reasonable response in Windlesham. But in the other areas, we haven't, and there's been more social media activity to try and encourage feedback. I think we will have to reflect on the point that you raised around, do we delay? There are some challenges in that. Again, Ms. Willis has been very kind in not chasing me up for feedback on the municipal calendar, but we have quite a busy year ahead of us, and the council meetings might be a little bit more spaced out, and if we miss the February one, that has consequences. We also have the structural change order. I think it was Section 24 also went up last week. I think it probably did, for review by Parliament, but if not, it's coming. So we know that will cut in at some point. So there are certain milestones in terms of the LGR process that we'd rather avoid by proceeding in a proper manner. But there's also quite a time lag for planning any outcome from the CGR process and making sure that happens smoothly as well. So it's not an easy question to answer right now, but I think the Chief Executive would agree that we have regularly discussed the challenges of the communication process, and I think we're both open to reflect on the process going forward to see what else we need to do. That said, Ms. Willis was kind enough to share some numbers in terms of responses with me earlier today, and I don't think we have a problem with publicising those publicly, do we? No, in terms of, because we're still a few days away from closure. So if you bear with me, I shall just find it, or maybe you can find it quicker than me. My inbox suddenly got exciting at the end of the day. No, I can't find it quick enough. Can you find it, Ms. Willis, to get a report on the numbers?
Just one observation.
I'm sorry, no, hang on, Councillor Lee, hang on 1 second. Hang on, I have found it. So we have, at the moment today, as of whatever, 5 o'clock-ish, in the unparished areas we have 681, so that's heading the right direction, but probably not big enough for the population size. In Bagshot and Lightwater we have 243, and in an unsurprising turn of events in Windlesham we have 1,151. So we have some places where we have good response rates, and others where I think they probably wouldn't be statistically high enough to make decisions on. So we'll reflect on the points you made, Councillor Lee, and we'll see what more we can do. But as I said, we were on quite a tight timeline on this. Yeah. Do you want to come back?
So two things to come back on. One, I think it needs to be put on record the hard work that the officer team have put in to deliver this. It's clear they've pulled out all the stops, and that is fantastic. It's quite clear a private supplier has let them down, and I think that's unfair on that private supplier to let such a hard-working group of people down. The second one, from my own experience of speaking to hundreds of people, listening to them, there's two pieces of information that come back from those residents. Number one, they feel aggrieved that it's only a small area that's unparished, it's not fair. And number two, they see the M3 as a natural community boundary with Camberley quite clearly having different needs and requirements to Heatherside, Parkside, Frimley, Green, Mitchett. And I think that's really, really clear in terms of the feedback I'm receiving.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Lee. I think the Chief Executive, Mr. Stephen, wants to come in.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Lee. It was only just to come back on a couple of points. Firstly, thank you for recognising the efforts of officers, because Ms Willis, her team, and Mr Whitfield and his team have been incredibly busy through this CGR process on top of everything else that they're doing. So I'm grateful for you recognising that. The first tranche of leaflets was intended to be the only tranche, and we were going to review and, as a worst case scenario, go up with the second set. So that first set went out week commencing the 5th of December, and it was on a 2-week cycle. Because of concerns that were expressed by councillors, we went back to the distributor and asked for information. They provided a Google overlay that shows the routes that their distributors took to deliver those. But there seem to be anomalies between the anecdotal information that's being provided by yourself and other councillors and those routes. So we're just trying to cross-reference the two, and we've asked for the same on the second tranche. We did that second set of leaflet distribution because of the concerns that were expressed, and we wanted to make sure that we saturated residents as much as we possibly could with information. But that's not the only route. You'll remember that in the council chamber, we asked all councillors to go out and sort of spread the news around CGR, so I'm really grateful that you were doing that when you've been visiting residents. And I know other councillors have done the same, and they've taken spare sets of leaflets with them to do that. We've also had leaflets in community locations, including our own reception here and others, and we've shared those around. And the social media approach we've taken in terms of optimisation has also been significant. And the reach in that regard has been around about 24,000 so far. So it's not insignificant. So there are other channels. It's obviously on our website as well, and we're promoting it through residents' newsletters and everything else. So the leaflets aren't the be-all and end-all, but we do need to understand why there seems to be an anomaly between what you're encountering when you speak to residents and what we've been given assurance on through our distributor. So I'll happily come back to you on that, Councillor Lee.
Thank you. I'm conscious that I probably gave one of the longest answers I've ever given on that topic. So if we need to think about the time, then let's be a little bit flexible on that if there are more questions. Councillor Rowlands, please, I think, and then we'll come back to you, Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. In view of the plans to expansion in St Michael's ward, my ward, and the complete absence of recreation and open space, what plans has the council got to rectify this situation? The obvious thing is to approach the Royal Military Academy to restore a right that used to exist in that community for the use of some part of the Royal Military Academy space. Is the council prepared to back me in my efforts to ask the Royal Military Academy authorities to make space for decent recreational provision in that part of St Michael's? Because we're going ahead with a large expansion in housing in that area. And then there's the situation of the existing housing, both in St Michael's and parts of town, the absence of recreational space for those particular areas.
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands. I'm glad you mentioned town near the end there, because I thought Councillor Garrett might give you a bit of a glare, because I think most of the housing expansion is in the town ward that's planned, not in St Michael's. But I understand your fundamental point, which is there are some challenges with green spaces in St Michael's. You were kind enough to share with me and the Chief Executive a letter that you'd sent to the feedback from the letter you sent to the relevant minister. where they said they were mindful of looking for opportunities to open up more. What was slightly disappointing was that the only actual commitment they made was to invite you to one of their events. So I think it's very much something that we can support you on. Happy to do that when the opportunity arises. I think the next stage is maybe to follow up on, for yourself to follow up on that letter they sent you, and we see where that goes for now. I think it's also important to note that we've had several conversations, and I'm sure they did in the previous administration as well, but I know in this administration we have, around what the opportunities are for additional leisure provision within St Michael's. And I think we have already, I think, brought forward a joint proposal for play facilities within the Avenue Sousa complex with Ascent. So those opportunities will be taken when they arise. Thank you. Lisa, please.
Sorry, thank you, Leader. We've already heard this evening some praise for our officers, and I absolutely echo those sentiments, and I think it's really clear that our officers are extremely valued, and we are very fond of them and very concerned about what the future is for them. So I wonder, Leader, if I could ask you, how are members of the West Surrey Council Joint Implementation Committee ensuring that officers from all councils get treated fairly through what is quite clearly a complex change process?
Thank you. So, yes, the Joint Committee met last Friday for the West. I think it was Thursday for the East, from memory. I think it's fair to say they went reasonably well. There were a number of different procedural aspects to that meeting. Appointing the chair was one of the first ones we had to get across. And agreeing the terms of reference, and actually I do want to come back on that, so please make sure you prod me in the ribs if I forget, Chief Executive. We agreed various procedural things, but one of the key papers did deal with people-related issues and how that would be approached, because we have an obligation to appoint interim golden triangles, so that's section 151, monitoring officer, Chief Executive, for the new council, and then we have an obligation to start putting in place the process from there for the new council. Now, we, as the joint committee for the West Surrey, we don't get to make the decisions. We get to almost do the architecture phase, where we point the direction and the kind of shape of things, and then people get to make the decisions later. However, very clearly in there was the overarching intention for fairness, and to follow the relevant codes of practice and legal frameworks. So there are various civil service code of practice that we should be following for these approaches. And I think people would recognise that the nature of this change is ultimately, as we get through the change, that there will be less positions for the senior level. So it's important that we follow those processes fairly. There were some. I did propose an amendment to maybe increase the independence in that process. We decided as a group not to pass that amendment, but to put in place an appointments working group to support the officers that are developing the approach to dealing with the people aspects, and to make sure that we have the ability to shape that in a way that is very much conducive to what you were saying, that we emphasise the fairness and give everybody an equal opportunity to progress. I am conscious that's a question about how officers feel. I don't know whether the Chief Executive would want to, whether you want to comment on that or more widely on the Joint Committee, because I think it's maybe the opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Fine and Cook, for the question. I'll keep it really brief. As an organisation and as a management team, we're doing everything we possibly can to support officers through local government reorganisation and to make sure that we position our teams in the best possible way we can leading into LGR. So there are a multitude of things that we're doing, some of which we've reported through the Joint Staff Consultative Group, and also you'll see some coming through to Employment Committee and then on to Council as well. There is always going to be an element of anxiety and apprehension about change, but we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we are ensuring that we're looking at the positives of that change, because there are absolutely positives for our teams, and we're supporting them through that transition.
Yeah, just the one thing I wanted to add, and it's in no way contradictory to the minutes, but I had made a note on the minutes. So under 58E last time, we discussed local government reorganisation, and the executive and then subsequently the council were kind enough to empower myself, working with the chief executive and under the advice of the monitoring officer, to do various things. And one of them was to deal with any governance and related matters. In the draft terms of reference and procedural aspects that were put forward to the joint committee, it had been highlighted by somebody, and I don't know who, but I think they might be like our Councillor Wilson. They chip away at the detail and find the gaps. I don't know who it was in Surrey that did that. I don't think it was Councillor Wilson, but it was somebody that very much got into the detail. And they identified that each and every councillor within Surrey has the right to attend certain exempt sessions under the right to know common law basis. Now, I am starting to stretch my knowledge of this subject beyond my capabilities. I don't know whether the monitoring officer or the chief executive want to chip in apart from... yes. Are you able to chip in on that point? Did you discuss it with them? Thank you, Ms Boateng. Just so members are aware of their rights, that's why I wanted to raise it.
Well, I can't chip in a lot, actually, but it's based on common law, and so it's not a statutory right, but it's based on common law. So if a councillor who's not on that committee, but the matter is exempt, and if they can demonstrate a need to know from their duties as a councillor, then they have the right to attend. That's it in a nutshell. Thank you.
Very good. So let's wait and see what those agendas are and what those issues could be, but at least you know what your rights are. Perhaps you'd be kind enough to mention it in the members' briefing so that everybody's aware of that. Okay, I'm making hard work of these questions today. Councillor Claret, please.
Yeah, it's just a quick question going back to what you just said. So in future, will we be notified when your committee is meeting, and should we want to go to watch it?
Yeah, that was also, thank you, Councillor Claret. That was also one of the early points that was raised, because I think we all felt that the public had a right to hear what was going on, even if it was only a handful that did want to watch it. So yes, each of the sessions were recorded. I think I shared the link amongst councillors as soon as I had it. Going forward, it will be broadcast in real time. In terms of attendance, you can attend, but you would be effectively a member of the public unless you were exercising your rights under the aspect that Ms Boateng commented on. So, very welcome to. We had what do we have? We had 2 commissioners and a ministerial aide there last time round. So yes, you can upgrade them, outrank them. Please, Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Leader. Just a very short one. In view of the comments that Councillor Lee's made, and I echo those about the officers' time that they put in to generate these leaflets and get them sent out, my concern is about the private company that's organised. What comeback have we got? If they're not actually doing what they've been paid to do, I'm assuming we've paid them or we're about to pay them. They haven't offered the service that they were being paid for, so are we likely to be paying the bill that I don't believe we should be?
I think, Councillor Garrett, you've said what I said in private, so yes. I think the officers are looking at what our contractual position is, and we'll try and exercise our rights as much as we can. Yeah. You said it much more eloquently than I may have said it. I think Councillor Rowlands, and then Councillor Lee, you had a second one, and I think that might be us if possible. Yeah, okay. Councillor Rowlands.
Chair, in view of the fact that I've looked at the video of the meeting, the points that you raised, only one of the points was accepted, and presumably that was reflecting the views of this council. What view do we take? That only one was appeared to be accepted by that committee. Does it mean that the committee is not listening to the views of this borough in terms of how it's going to proceed? What view should we take on that?
Can I check? Are you relating to the section near the end where we discussed the people issue?
Sorry?
Within the joint committee, are you referring to the section at the end of the meeting?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you need to be aware, Councillor Rowlands, that this is, and it's probably something for all of us as members of that committee to get our heads around. This is a collaborative effort, okay? So, you know, classically officers give us papers and, you know, we agree to them, we disagree with them, we tweak them and stuff. I think this is genuinely a bit more collaborative than that, where we've got opportunities to work together on certain aspects. And so the nature of the discussion was in no way adversarial amongst any of the committee members or indeed the officers. It was, what's the right time to have the right input, to have the right output for the residents of Surrey. So I felt it was in the best interest of the collaboration to say, well, let's work on this a bit more, let's bring it back to the team at another point in time, and then we see where we are. And it may well be some of the things that were suggested by myself and the other, backed by the other members, would subsequently be put into place. So I didn't in any way view it as a negative thing. I view it as a positive thing. I have the highest possible respect for the Chief Executive of Mole Valley, and I'm sure as team leader she will, in fact she's even reached out to me today, there we are, so I've forgotten about that. So we will move the thing forward in good faith. That's the nature of this committee. Yeah, and it should be no way adversarial. Across either officers and members, or amongst the members, or amongst the officers. This is definitely, we have to scrum down and do this all together. Okay, thank you. Councillor Lee, then we'll call it a day, I think.
Thank you, Leader. I wasn't planning to have any either private or public council meetings or meetings to council-appointed bodies this week, so it's quite interesting. I end up here asking not one but two questions. So the second question is, so the last full council it was requested that you write to the Chobham Poor Allotments charity to attempt to address residents' concerns. Has there been any reply or update on this?
Yes, there has. I chased, I've forgotten Catherine's second name, I'm having a mental block there. The Chief Executive's PA just, I think earlier, late end of last week to see if we had had a response, and we hadn't had anything. However, this afternoon, a letter did drop in from a lawyer representing the Chobham Poor Allotment Charity, which I'm happy to read to you, and I will make available through the public channels so that the residents are aware. And then, should the need arise, we can look to support the residents that are concerned about this. We're instructed by the trustees of Chobham Poor Allotment Charity and have seen a copy of your letter to them dated the 18th of December 2025. The primary duty of trustees is to administer their charity in accordance with its governing document and the requirements of charity law. They would prefer to continue to dedicate their time and efforts to fulfilling that duty instead of spending time correcting the many misleading comments and insinuations that are circulating about the charity. The trustees continue to manage the charity and its assets in accordance with its governing document and with their duties under charity law. You will therefore appreciate that the trustees do not consider that devoting resources and time to arranging a public meeting of the kind being requested would be consistent with their duties as charity trustees. I think that's a little bit disappointing, because I think the residents were just asking for a bit of transparency as to the processes that have been followed and how they had got here, but that's well within their rights to make that response, and I'm sure the trustees, the members of the residents who are concerned about what's going on there will decide what their course of action is in due course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, let's move on. I think that's, we've definitely timed out there, I think, haven't we, people? Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Flexible Home Improvement Loans Limited, item 6 on the agenda. I think that's with you, Lisa, please.
Thank you. Okay, the purpose of this report, it reviews the future of the Flexible Home Improvement Loan Limited, a consortium which was established in 2007 to 8 to provide loans for home repairs, safety improvements and adaptations, primarily for older homeowners to enable them to stay in their homes for longer. Surrey Heath Borough Council is one of 12 member authorities. The Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead no longer wish to host the operation anymore. There's been very low uptake in Surrey Heath, and in fact no loans across the whole consortium have been granted since April 2014. The current loan book is 6.5 million in secured loans, net assets of 9.92 million and cash reserves of 4.05 million. The recommendations are clear in the paper, but I'll give you a little summary of them if my computer does what it's supposed to do. So the preferred option, as outlined, is to form a consortium of local authorities, dissolve FHIL Limited, transfer assets and procure an FCA regulated provider for loan administration. Other options considered were to find a new host, which was deemed not viable, let each council manage its own loans, not permitted, or do nothing, which we cannot do. The implications, financial first of all, membership fees will remain. The annual cost will need to be decided by the new consortium, so that is an unknown. Risks, continued low uptake. However, we need to balance that against consideration for the loss of the service. So that is where we are at. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Councillor Fulham-Cook. I've got to be honest, I was portfolio holder and I don't ever remember coming across this. And I don't ever remember hearing about it at any point. So it's not surprising there's not been much uptake, because if I don't know about it, and my residents are probably ones like yours that could be using it, then it's not being promoted. So I suspect that one thing we probably need to do is, if we're going to do it, is promote it more to the relevant people. As I say, I didn't know it was there, and I'm sure there are people that I could probably be referring to this service for them to use it. So I support. I suppose my question is, we are putting together a consortium. Did you say there haven't been any since 2014? Okay, so the consortium is to do what? To service the loans of the 6.5 million, I think it says in the papers, and still sort those out, of which some of them may not even have been in Surrey Heath. Is that right? So we're paying for a service that we haven't used since 2014, and even if we're not using it, we're still paying for it. Is that basically right?
So I think it's important to note that there's been no new loans across the whole consortium. Okay, it's not just in Surrey Heath, and I think that the reluctance to promote is perhaps because the future has been uncertain. And just with regard to your point about maybe there's plenty of residents who could use the service, I don't disagree with you. It is important to note that it is for homeowners, so that's just worth noting.
Yeah, at a very high level, there's 17 residents in Surrey Heath using this. And yeah, nobody's done it for a long time, and it's not the cost, it's costing us like 5,000 a year, but it's not the cost, it's just the cumbersome nature of this. So I view this as quite a technical paper. I don't know if anybody else has got any questions or concerns around it. Councillor McIntyre.
I support the recommendation. I think it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of work gone into that paper, so thank you to everyone that's done that. The only thing that wasn't particularly clear to me, or it was half answered, was the annex, which had a separate report in it, and it talked about the legal position. And obviously, the company at the moment is an FCA regulated company, and was saying that the regulatory burden of having a consortium would be lower because of exemptions, etc. My only nervousness is whether or not that's true, and whether or not we've got sufficient professional advice to make sure that we don't end up doing something that should be regulated that we're not regulated for.
That's definitely beyond my capabilities to answer. Any help over there, Ms. Boateng, or?
Yes, that's certainly something that, I'm up there as Sue McCubbin there, because I'm sitting in the wrong place. Yes, we did meet with a solicitor who's looking after the scheme and the changes that we're going through in order, if this is approved across all of the members of the proposed consortium. So that's something we'll definitely keep an eye on going forward and make sure that we're acting within the law. If that's okay.
So could I just, thank you. Could I just check your point, Councillor McIntyre? So you were basically saying that by moving to the consortium, we don't leave ourselves exposed legally from our requirements to be regulated. Is that correct?
Yes, so normally regulation comes from the activity you're providing. So in this case, homeowner loans. That's regulated activity. therefore the company is an FCA regulated company providing that. The paper seems to suggest that by becoming a consortium, we can utilise some exemptions, and therefore we don't need the FCA regulations or permissions to do it. I don't think, it might just be lazy terminology. So what I'm saying is we'd break the law if we did something that should be regulated or have the permissions to do if we're not regulated. So that needs to be cleared up before we go into consortium.
Right, and I think if I understand correctly, the officer position is that we are okay with that, but you're asking for it to be double checked. Is that fair?
Yes, so the Annex A specifically says it's not black and white. So it is saying that there is an element of uncertainty within that.
Okay, thank you. So then when it comes to the recommendation, because I don't really think it's, whilst I accept the legal risk, I don't think it's in our interest that this come back again. The executive's asked to resolve to do this. Can we put a caveat to say subject to legal review on the regulatory point? Is that okay, Ms. Boateng?
Yes, that's absolutely fine. I'll check that. I don't know to it. Thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Willis, are you able to make up some words that reflects that comment? And as the executive, are we okay with that proposal? Yeah. So in that context, are we okay to approve this paper subject to that amendment?
Agreed.
Thank you. The recommendation's approved. Okay, thank you, Leanne. Okay, so if we move on to the Surrey Retrofit Strategic Action Plan, and I noticed they put this down to a snappy 5-letter acronym somewhere in the paper. This one, I think, is with Councillor Ashbury. Excellent. I wasn't expecting this coming my way, but it's coming my way. Are you picking it up? Excellent. Great news. Thank you, Councillor Rice.
And I'm intending to be brief because I feel like I'm losing my voice. So the report sets out the current situation. In 2024, Surrey was chosen to be one of the pilots for the local area retrofit accelerator, where Surrey County Council has led work on developing the Surrey Retrofit Strategic Action Plan. This was undertaken between January and July 2025 with consultation over 40 organisations. This action plan is now ready to be signed off, and as Surrey Heath Borough Council is a partner organisation, we have been asked to endorse the plan. There is a full summary within the agenda paper as well as the report, and the recommendation is to approve. Thank you.
Councillor Garrett, please.
I promise I'm not going to try and ask a question on every single paper, but although it might be a challenge. I'm going to start the same. I wasn't aware of this, to be fair, and I'm guessing it's because it's SCC. That's probably not a surprise. I don't remember hearing mention of this in any of our net zero conversations. Now, I could be wrong, because those papers are really long, but I don't remember hearing about this in those. And if we haven't, surely it should have been mentioned within them in some way, or am I missing the point?
No, I don't think you are missing the point. I think it's a good question, and I think because it is an SCC project and it's not actually any work being done by Surrey Heath Borough Council itself, essentially all we are being asked to do is to say, have you read it and are you happy with it, and to then support it. I also think with the changes that we made to the governance of the working groups, I believe that this probably came into work with Surrey County Council after that, so the regular meetings that we were having with working groups would have ceased by then. I am happy to ask Mr. Dent if this can be reviewed by the working group. However, I would stress that it is something that's the county council rather than us, so it would there would be very limited kind of input that we would be able to make to changes. So that's kind of where I'll leave that. I do believe Mr. Dent is, if he's attending virtually.
I think Mr. Bartlett.
Oh, Mr. Bartlett, Kieran, if he has anything else to add, but I think that is the reason why it hasn't come to the working group.
So, just for the benefit of others, the screens have gone down, as you may have noticed, but I can see that Kieran is eager to talk to us, and hopefully we can hear him. So, Kieran, do you want to chip in?
I think Councillor Rice has covered the key points there. It definitely aligns.
One second, your volume's a bit low. Either that or my hearing's turned down.
Sorry. Can you hear me any better now if I speak a bit louder? Sorry.
No, we're not quite getting you.
If I could just, what I'm happy to do is take it away to the, I will also stress that this is not my paper, this is Councillor Ashby's paper, so when he's returned from his travels, I'll make the point, and also Mr Bartlett will be able to take that away. I would just stress, if there's a kind of a desired need for it to come to the working group, we can hand, but I don't want to schedule an unnecessary meeting, especially as we're demanding more and more from officers' time.
Do you want to try again, Mr Bartlett?
Is that any better now?
No, it's not really. No, it's not coming through. Listen, we'll don't take it personally. We wanted to hear what you wanted to say, but we'll give up on that. I'd be very surprised if there's any misalignment between anybody in this chamber on this paper in principle, is there, in the strategy. So I think if there are points that anybody sees that we could do slightly differently here, or that we want to feed into the county's work, then I'm sure that Councillor Rise and Mr Dent and others will be happy to take it forward. So you have your rights, obviously, Councillor Garrett, but I think this is heading the right direction, and anything we do can just supplement it on the way.
It wasn't necessarily a dig at anyone. I think it was a case of we've had lots of conversation about it, and maybe it's the joined up thinking. Maybe unitaries will solve these problems where actually people will talk to each other.
Yeah, I think your point was fairly made. Absolutely.
If I could just add in one point as well, is that Mr Dent, who's our climate change manager, there is officer groups that cover across the county organisation and all the boroughs and districts. So he's in regular engagement with officers in Surrey as well. So I think, and as we move into unitary, as the county council will kind of operate as kind of the work will continue, because when the unitary councils move into the shadow authority stage as well.
So we now have a written statement, not on Truth Social, but on you can believe this one. It's on WhatsApp, and the Chief Exec will just read it out.
Yes, thank you to Mr Bartlett for messaging separately just to provide a short update. He essentially says it aligns with the Climate Change Action Plan and is actually a Surrey County Council action, so would not be specific to the main purposes of the working group. However, he is happy to bring an item to a future meeting to provide an update.
It might fit quite nicely into. Do you still do updates on P&F on progress of the? Yeah, maybe that's the place to handle it. Just wrap it up in there. So just one point, because I don't want people thinking we've approved a strategic acting plan. There's a small typo in the recommendation. We're missing the O, so we can have an action plan, not an acting plan, if that's okay. Yeah, just in case somebody adds a G on. With that minor adjustment, the pedant in me, are we happy with the proposal as recommended? Yeah? Agreed. Thank you. Agreed. Thank you, Mr Bartlett, and thank you to Mr Dent and everybody else involved as well. So we move now on to item 8, which is the extension of the contract cleaning and security services, the Square Shopping Centre, Camberley, and I think we hand over to Kel for the rest of the evening.
Yeah. Okay, so this paper relates to a 6-month renewal or extension of the security and cleaning contract for the Square with the existing contractor whilst the job is re-tendered. The cost of the service is recoverable through the service charge payable by the tenants, and the terms of the contract remain unchanged. Paper is recommended for approval. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions, anybody? Councillor Garrett, there's a pattern of behaviour emerging. Please.
Doing 3 for 3, aren't we? On page 19, hang on one second, not for publication. Okay, that's fine. I can talk about it without talking about it. So it mentions some figures and it says...
Which page?
Sorry, 191.
Sorry,
page 191.
Thank you.
So it mentions soft services. I'd love to understand what a soft service is. And looking at the figures, it looks like we're paying a third, if my maths is about right, and that's 2/3 that we're not paying. But a third sounds like a lot of money for us to be paying for something where I know people say we're not renting out a lot of the units, but we are renting out most of the units, and there are some units that are not being rented. I get that, but is it really a third? So I just want to get an idea of that.
Yeah, I seem to remember it was 40% of the space or something, but Mr. Breeden, do you want to chip in on that? Have I got that right for a change?
That's right, it's 40%. So a number of tenants. So not only does the landlord, the council in this instance, have to cover the vacant shops, there are a number of shops that pay inclusive charges. So they pay a rent that's, if you like, gross of the service charge contribution. And all those together add up to around 40%.
And is soft services literally security and cleaning? And though, okay, thank you.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Leader. Obviously, looking forward to the joys of M&A activity with a number of councils that have extensive retail portfolios. Do we think there's any potential opportunity of cost savings in the future? I appreciate it's early days with the Joint Committee only just being set up, but it's thinking through as to whether any opportunities from joining forces, sadly, with Woking that's bankrupt and Spelthorne that's heading that way, and Runnymede that's not in a great space either.
I believe the business case for LGR was based on some opportunities around that. So yes, there should be opportunities, but I think we've all agreed, and we've had this discussion here before, that we have to make decisions on the contracts that we have, and we have to extend them into the phase where we know we'll be in LGR. And it won't be the biggest priority for the new council sorting out consolidation of the soft services contracts. So we just need to do things in the right order, and that'll be mainly around the strategy services. But yes, in the fullness of time, there will be opportunities for consolidation of various things, which I think is what you're alluding to. One resident raised with me the other day, how was he going to return his library books in East Surrey? And that, I'll be honest, that issue had not popped up on my radar. But it's the practical level of the issues that we will have to address over the months and years ahead.
Just another one. So we obviously, to entice people to use these units, we give them rent-free periods, which I totally understand. When they do a rent-free period, do they actually get services? They have to pay for services, or do they services free? Because I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Mr. Breeden.
I think it depends on the deal that gets done, is the honest answer. So ordinarily, yes, the service charge, we'd endeavour to cover a service charge from day one of occupation, and that's the normal position.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, we look forward to the process running forward, because you'll be going through a recontracting process. I think this is just a delay in that process. So, going into Evergreen for a period while that process is ongoing. So we look forward to that coming back in due course, but for now, we're happy with the recommendation to extend as it stands. Agreed. I was a bit concerned, seeing as the contract said it ran out in 6 days' time, that we were close to the wire there, Mr. Breeden, but never mind. We got there. Right. Smoke ventilation systems in the square, please.
Right, the smoke vent system is part of the life safety system for the square. Basically, in the event of a fire, these roof vents spring open so that smoke can escape. The work was highlighted as necessary in the November 2023 executive paper, which is at Annex 1. The financial impacts are set out in the paper, and the money is in the relevant budgets. Appropriate qualified advisors have now advised on the scope of the work, which have been confirmed as necessary by our independent health and safety advisors, our insurers, Surrey Fire and Rescue, and our own property team. The work now needs to be done, and this paper is recommended for approval.
Thank you. Any questions on this one? I'll tell you what, while people are thinking about them, I'll chip in. So, can I just check where we are in the, should we say, the refurbishment and upgrade programme, Mr. Breeden? Because we passed a paper, I think, November 2023, was it? With lots of stuff in it over multiple years. Could you just give an indication where we are in that programme in terms of the high and the mediums? Because I think this is part of that programme. That would be great. Thank you.
let's start with the roof. So we've done 2 phases of the highest priority roof repairs. We've also implemented a more robust maintenance regime, which has virtually eradicated the problem of buckets into the moat. It's obviously a dynamic situation, and gaskets fail on roof lights and allow a little bit of rainwater in, but we're in a far better position we were in that respect. We've procured a new designer and building surveyor for the next phase of roof works. So there's all the roofs over the shops, there's more work to be done on the glass roofs. That work will take place this year. We've done a comprehensive survey of all the works that have done, so the original estimates and prioritisation was done on, if you like, a walk round and a high level survey, and now we've got the detailed information. Regarding the mechanical and electrical equipment, we've done a number of works to ensure that the smoke vent system is safe. It is safely operating today, but we do need to get on with the work, as the portfolio holder has said. We are on site with replacement of sprinkler systems. So that's an overdue piece of work that is being done. We're doing the smoke vent work, and in the next service charge year, we'll be doing replacement of the air handling units for the heating and ventilation system. So a lot of work going on behind the scenes.
Would it be fair to say, because this work will get done this year as well, so would it be fair to say by the end of this year we would be, 80% plus done in terms of that upgrade programme? Is that reasonable to say that?
I think there'll still be more to do, so we are phasing out over a period of years, but what we're doing is we're making sure we're doing the highest priority work so that we're spending money in the short term on the things that really need to be done.
Okay, and you knew this was coming. When are we going to be bucket-free then? Or will we never be bucket-free? We want to be a bucket-free council, so when is that going to happen?
We're virtually bucket-free now.
Virtually bucket-free, okay. Let's keep everything crossed. So that's a big step forward, because obviously that has a big implication on we trivialise it, but it's not trivial because it has a big implication on the retailers and the experience of residents and shoppers alike. So yeah, that's great. So it's really good to see this work come forward, and it's good to see the progress that we're making. And I think in due course we're going to put solar panels and stuff on the top of it as well, aren't we? So we can make it more renewable as well in terms of what we're doing. So if there's no other questions than that, and nobody wants to ask what pressure these units are operating under, the chemical engineers amongst us, then or what size the air handling unit is going to be. No, nobody wants to ask that. Fair enough. Are we happy with the recommendation as it stands? Agreed. Thank you to the team that's working on this, and we look forward to seeing it all finished off. And we're making big steps forward, which is great. Okay, so we've got 3 items coming up which we will have to exclude the press and public, but before we do that, we're going to take a slightly different route. So I've got a couple of comments, and I'm going to hand over to Kel, who will talk about item 13 in aspects that she's allowed to. So item 11, for the benefit of the public, looks at improvements and investments to units in the square. We anticipate when we go into exam that we will reject this paper due to changes in what has unfolded, but we will be requesting the officers to bring this back as soon as the opportunity arises. Item 12 is a small technical and financial amendment to a previous decision we made on the 18th of June 2024 concerning the rear of 63A Bagshot. So again, members of the public shouldn't be too concerned about that one. And without further ado, maybe over to you for the open comment on item 13.
Okay, so item 13, which falls into part 2 of this meeting, relates to the potential sale of the Theta office building in Frimley, which is in line with the council's obligation to regularly review investment property assets. The specific proposals are commercially sensitive and it would not be in the council's interest to divulge them in public, and for that reason this paper is exempt from publication. All members are requested to respect that commercial sensitivity. We propose to publish the paper in full following completion of the sale, should it be approved. Theta opened in 2001 and was purchased by the council in March 2019 for £13.5 million. It generates rental income for the provision of the council services from its tenants, which include the NHS, SGS and National Oil Well Vardco. The tenancies will be unaffected by the sale and any new owner would need to comply with the landlord's obligations contained in the leases. Since the time of purchase, the way that offices are used has fundamentally changed, with apps such as Teams enabling remote working, which has reduced the requirements for office space. This is reflected in the later independent valuation of the property, which is set out in the paper. This report indicates an intention to use the proceeds of the sale to reduce the council's external borrowing, which would result in a saving in debt interest from repaying external loans, as well as a reduction in the minimum revenue provision. The note indicates that there is an opportunity to generate a significant revenue saving by accepting terms from a provider of long-term borrowing, although repayment of loans is a delegated decision and does not require approval from the executive. Using the capital receipts in this way goes towards achieving the aims of the property work stream in the transformation project and accords with the council's strategy of delivering effective services and sustainable finances. Minimal costs will be expended on any transaction. Business as usual operations in the management of the property are continuing in the meantime to mitigate against the risk of the transaction not proceeding. Lastly, on the 18th of November, the executive approved the use of £49,015 of funding for the provision of up to 6 electric vehicle chargers for the Theta building. The report includes a recommendation to reallocate that funding to charges elsewhere within land and property owned by the council should this sale proceed. I'm happy to take any general questions, but any detailed questions will need to be taken further on into part 2. Thank you.
Okay, so my preference here would be now to go into exempt so we don't have any slip-ups. But if anybody's got any very high-level questions that aren't going to cause us no on any of those items, right, fine. Ms Boateng, just remind me, because I think I had this discussion with your predecessor, do I legally have to read out all of this because it's particularly long this evening? Or am I allowed to refer to the resolution to go into exempt?
I'm happy for you just to refer to the resolution to go into exempt. That's fine.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Lee. There is a resolution here in front of us to go into exempt to restrict the proceedings to be private from the public as per the relevant parameters of the relevant acts. Are we so resolved?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. Let me know when we're